Hello, good evening. Kindly let me know if you can hear my voice. Let me know if you can hear my voice, please.
I can hear you.
Okay, okay. Good evening, Deborah. Good evening, Oyemichi Patulumio. It's good to have you on the platform this evening. Um, First, I like doing one thing before I start or engage myself in anything, which is prayers. So I will just drop a minute or two prayer, a second rather, let me say, because there's no time. We only have less than 45 minutes for the class. Thank you, Lord Father. Thank you for the opportunity, for the grace and the enablement for this. You are the able one, the God of mercy. But as we start, come and start with us and come and end with us also, Lord, in the mighty name of Jesus. We put you before anything that we engage in today. Come and take absolute control in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. So to start with, I guess some persons already know my name, but I would like to make it because I'm recording this session also. But it would be nice if you stay with me live on the page, on the video chat, so that you can ask direct questions. I can give you feedback as soon as possible. I'm a very busy person. I don't really, I spend time, most of my time in my office. So to start with, my name is David. I'm a CGI artist, like I said on the WhatsApp page, practicing for several years now by the grace of God. So this should be an orientation class, but you should be learning some few things also. I would like you to get your pen and paper and jot some things down. So Lumion like a pro. So we'll talk about Lumion like a pro. You have to understand something. The software is as good as its user. Even if you have the high-end laptop or something, even if you have 900 gig RAM laptop with dedicated graphics of 1000 gig or 1 terabyte, your system will not perform if you don't put it to work. So the skill is really, really necessary, not just the gadgets or the accessories needed for it. So now, I would like to start with number one. You all are here because you want to make your renders look nice, come out very, very fine and wonderful. So how do you engage in this? How do you start this first? Number one, remove the mindset of being lazy. You don't have to be lazy. It all starts from your model. Now, whichever software you're using to model, be it Revit, be it SketchUp, be it ArchiCAD, any other or 3D Max, any other software you are using to model, you must make sure the model is detailed. You don't just do okay, I don't have time, let me just rush it, let me just because you don't know the particular word that can actually shoot your shot or push you out to the world. So I advise people to always make sure their model is detailed. Detail is very, very important. There should be detail in your model, detail in materials, and detail in composition. So now I will list some few things. Number one, like I said remove laziness out of it. Don't be lazy while you model, because there are some tiny things you feel like, I can use material to achieve, but model will make it, playing with them in model will help you do better. All of this will be explained when the class starts on the proper. So now I said one, don't be lazy. So now, number two, we talk about composition. I want to make it very fast so that if there's any other questions, you can chip in and comment from there. So number two, composition. Composition, what does composition really mean? Whenever you go online, or maybe let's say like Twitter, you go to Instagram, all these what's it called? Visualization page. You notice you see pictures that will just wow you. Wow, this is wonderful. This is it's not actually about the system, like I said earlier. It's not just about the system alone. The system is also a factor, but it's not just about the system alone. So it's basically comprises of composition. Note that first. Composition. What is composition? Composition is the placement of objects in a scene. That means composition is the placement of objects in an image. where the objects are placed in an image. So now your building, your exterior building, let's say now, because for this class, we'll focus mainly on exterior because I only want the session to be 2 classes basically, but this one is an orientation class, so I'm not making this as a count for the 2 classes. The main class will start on the 18th and 19th. So composition, arrangement, and the positioning or the positioning of models in your scene. The model now, which is the primary model, can be the house or the building you've already constructed with any of the modeling software or BIM software, be it Revit or Anko. So now, that position, that building, how do you shoot it out as an image? How do you position it out as an image? I'll be putting up some pictures or some images of what's it called, of my previous renders, so that you can pick 1 or 2 ideas about it also. So now, how do you talk about composition in images? So, number one, you tell a story with it. You have to tell a story with your image. Don't just shoot the scene or capture the scene, or because you want to show all the whole, what's it called, all the whole images. No, it doesn't really work like that most times. There should be a particular detail you're trying to shoot out. There should be a particular thing you're trying to express in what's it called, in a in an image. So to start with, all the images I'll be showing you today are copyrighted by me. I made them myself. Some were modeled elsewhere, and I just did the render. And I will spot those ones, and I will let you know the ones, what was it called? The ones I modeled and I also render. All of them are done on, what's it called? Lumion. No other software was involved aside Lumion, Revit, and post-production, that's Photoshop. I also make use of 3D Max. I have 3D Max renders, but I will not be showing all of that at all because this class is strictly for Lumion. And I want you guys to understand something. Jay, we can see you. You look very, very handsome. Thank you very much. Help us put up the video. So now, I want us to understand something, that the software is as good as its user. Is what you tell a computer to do is gonna do. So garbage in, like we normally say in our secondary school, then garbage in, garbage out. If you don't put your system to work, my brother, my sister, it will not give you the quality of what you desire. So now, I said I'll be shooting some images because we're not talking about composition, basically. So to start with, okay, let me start from here. Okay, let me start from top to bottom. So this is actually a render, strictly what's it called? Lumion. No other software. Lumion model was on Revit, and from Revit to Lumion, and from Lumion, few post-production was done on it. So now this is a Lumion render. This is an image. This is what we call composition, positioning of models. Now, your model does not really need to have a lot of everything in it. What you're trying to express in a model, in render, is 1, composition. Number 2, camera angles. Number 3, lighting setup. Number 4, color palette. Number 5, high quality material. It doesn't really mean you should now start looking for 4K materials, 6K materials. I will explain all of these 4K, 6K, 2K materials, so that we can understand IRS material. I will explain all of them for you. I'll break everything down for you and how you can play with them on Lumion. But it doesn't really mean that you should start looking for 4K material whenever you want to do any render. But detailed material is very, very important. You don't just pick materials anyhow. And whenever you're picking material, you have to understand the color of that material. You don't pick any color I use. So now I will teach us this night before time. Okay, thank God, I'm a bit fast. It's 8:07. I will teach us on how to choose colors whenever you render. This night, I will do that this night. how to choose color, how it can help you to get a good color grading for your renders. I'll do that this night. So now I said number one, composition. Composition is the position of the models. So now this thing is not actually distracted. It's not, there's no like to the point, there's a focus, there's a story I'm telling. Look at the structure. Just look at the structure. I didn't decide to feel okay. I didn't say I want to put what's it called, one tree in front of the building because I want to show the tree. My aim is expressing and showing the detail on the building, the form, the details of the walls. That's the story this particular image is telling. So now we should take note of that. There should be a story your model, your what's it called, your image is telling. There should be a story behind it. So now storytelling, and then choice of model too is very, very important. And finally, post-production. So now I'll break it down. I've started with composition already. I listed one, composition. I told you guys to please take a pen and a paper, list all of these things. That's very, very important. Number one, composition. Number two, camera angles. Number three, lighting setup. Number four, color palette. Number five, high quality materials or detailed material. Let's say detailed material because some people start looking for 4K or 6K materials now. Detailed materials, choice of model and their placement, and number five, storytelling. Then number six, that should be number eight, post-production. Post-production is a later thing because your image can get better in Lumion, even before moving it to what's it called, to Photoshop. I will show you some images here today, this night, that was actually done with and without post-production so that you compare the difference. It can be better even before you do the post-production. Your image must not solely rely on post-production before it can look very, very nice. So composition, camera angles. So now the camera angle, I will on this particular one, this number two, I will take us to, let me just go to Lumion now. I hope you guys can see my screen for Lumion. Hello, somebody should say something. I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So I'll be using Lumion 10 this night. I know there are higher Lumions now. We have 11, Lumion 12, and the rest. But for tonight, I will stick with Lumion 10 because I know most of us might not have the advantage of icing so high those versions in the higher versions, because the more the higher version of the Lumion, the more stress it gives your system because you have to keep on increasing your bandwidth. So let me load one of the Lumion sample projects. I'll actually load one of the Lumion sample projects. Okay. Let's go with this one, I think. Okay, let me go with this one. So let me continue with that while this thing is loading. So I've said something about composition. Now, camera angles. When we talk about camera angle, the positioning of your camera is very, very important. You don't just put the camera and just shoot anyhow. Lumion is just so simple and easy to use compared to other render engines. There's not too much settings. It's just for you to understand the basics and also apply tips and tricks, because that's the aim of this class. I'm giving you tips and tricks that will wow you, and you always pray for me. That's the most important. That's my aim. So now, and mind you, the difference between this, if you go to YouTube, you see a lot of classes on Lumion, a lot of tutorials and all the rest on Lumion. You meet a lot of it. But the difference between this class and those videos you see online is that there is sorry, please. Okay, the difference between the class and this is that none of them will show you the secrets to becoming so free with Lumion. Nah. So now I've so much used Lumion to the extent of expressing myself, and I can actually do without Lumion default features. That is, I can do without Lumion default settings. I can do without Lumion default sky. I can decide not to use Lumion Sky at all for my job. I can decide not to use anything that pertains to Lumion, just the engine alone to just render. I will compose my custom settings, my own materials, my own my own sky, everything. Just the kind of freedom 3D Max will give you. That is what people don't know Lumion can actually give. And if you can achieve that, I bet you can be better than me. You can be better than any other person when it comes to the use of this software, Lumion. So now, camera, camera angles. So I'll go to the scene. Stuff. Okay. So when we talk about camera angle, there are several ways you can actually understand camera angle. One, the first one is still boils down to composition because they work hand in hand. So now, when you're working with camera angle, make sure that you understand cinematography. It's a big word though, but I will break it down now so that we understand better. So cinematography, that's cinematography is the act of shooting videos, making images, and capturing pictures, stuff like that. Like if you all watch movies on a normal. So when we talk about camera angle, Lumion made it very, very easy for us that they incorporated one of the rules of composition on the software. Composition is very, very important. It's very, I will keep saying this over and over again, and don't get bored because I will say it throughout the end of the class. It's very important. So now, camera angle. So now, whenever you're positioning your camera, this is it. Whenever you're positioning your camera, make sure that you follow. By the time if you try to drag on the screen of Lumion, you see 4 thin lines around this boundary. Let me remove this thing, please. Okay. You see 4 thin lines around these boundaries. One. Okay, I can see better. Can we see it? Somebody should just can we see the 4 thin lines? 2 vertical and 2 horizontal lines. Then we have a focus at the center. Can someone just turn on your audio and answer me? Can you see the 4 thin lines? Hello? Hello?
Not yet.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, we can see it.
So I don't want anybody. You can definitely turn it off. I don't want anybody to. I want us to take note of this. The line. This particular lines is one of the rules in composition. One of the rules in composition. We don't joke with it. It's very, very important. You put this line in cognizance whenever you're taking any picture, because whenever you plan to take pictures like this, this is normal snapping of pictures. You keep on doing another. So now, whenever you do it, you drag and you take note of the 4 lines. So what is this line? This line is called rules of thoughts. What does rules of thoughts help us to do? I will by the end of this class, I will drop some pictures on rules of thought that have been explained. They are not actually my renders, they are real life images. I'll drop it so that you understand how rules of thoughts work. So I'll do that in the end of the class, but I don't want to dwell too much on this particular part of because we still have a long way to go. I'll still teach color palette and lighting setup and every other thing. So just take note of that. I will give explanations on that and send pictures even on a WhatsApp page. And I will, if possible, the system, I will load a link where I will see most of these pictures too. So number 3, we started with one composition, camera angle. Okay, before I leave camera angle also, there is one mistake people make. They don't play with this focal length at all. For every camera, there should be a focal length for every camera. It's very important. You see, people just take pictures with, I think the default focal length is about 15. The default is always about 15. You know, then they zoom in, and by the time you shoot the picture, by the time you see, you notice like the wide angle of the camera is just so sharp and beveled. that you start losing details and importance to the model, that is your primary model. So I want us to understand something, that whenever you're shooting, whenever you own a camera, the difference between a CGI artist or maybe a visualizer and a photographer is that we use laptops, we use computers to develop images, or they use cameras to develop images. So whatever they can actually achieve with cameras, we should be able to achieve the same. So you even see pictures that are not render pictures or visualized pictures, and you appraise the picture, you feel nice, you're like, wow, this is wonderful, this is nice. Why? Because the what's it called? The photographer took notice and took care of all the settings in the camera. So you don't just leave a camera, palm, not the best with the camera now what for them. Sorry, I actually spoke like that. So you have to take notice of that. Number one thing is the best, each scene have a particular range of focal length that you can use that will make the image not too sharp, or maybe having unrealistic perspective view or something. So for exterior views, basically exterior views that is focused on a single object or one or two objects, you should notice that the focal length should be more wider. About 30 is not bad. Then by the time you move, so now I still don't like this scene. I want to make the scene look more better. I want to make it look like I'm actually standing in front of this building. So you don't, like I said earlier, you don't shoot the camera just for shooting's sake. You should actually visualize it. You should tell a story. You visualize it as if, okay, I'm inside the picture. How do you intend to see the picture? The image. The image is small in front of you now. So put yourself on the computer and feel, okay, I'm in front of this video. How do I see it? You know, the average height of the human being is 1.5 meters. So that should also be considered also. Not in all cases. You can actually try to bend most of these things, but you don't bend it when you are still battling with the skill. I hope you guys understand me. You don't bend it when you're still battling with the skill. You bend it when you know, okay, you've known a lot of the nitty-gritty and everything about a particular thing. So now I will put in the average what's it called? The camera height. This is the position, this is the height, the position of the camera. I'll put in 1.5 there. Then if I have it at 1.5, then I can still move my scene up and down. My 1.5 will still be there. I can still move my scene up or down. Then after moving it up or down, can you see it's looking tilted, like it's looking like a bed, a rat view or something. Then there are options whereby you can add several camera, what's it called? Camera settings to it, and you make it look vertical. With this scene alone, I can add more effect and more effect and more effect and more effect and more effects, do several settings, and everything will come out still nice. Imagine, okay, this is what I have first. Let me go back to, I'll delete this. I'll go back, let me go back to this. Then I'll show this. Then now let me leave it, it was around 3.9 before, 3.9. So imagine this is what I have. Are you going to appraise my scene? No, you will not feel, or it's even still not like this. Let me put it at the default focal length, and now zoom in. So let's compare this view with this view. With the settings is off. Let me have the settings here. So now, so let's compare this view with this view. The difference is huge. So you have to understand composition has a lot of things to do. And when the class starts, really, you get to know a lot of this, So not to waste much of our time, we still have a lot of things to discuss, because camera composition, cinematography rules is not just enough for us to know everything about that. So now lighting setup. Lighting setup, just understand one thing, that light and that gives life. It gives depth to every job you do, every design you do. every artwork you do. Light and dark. Imagine this image does not have what's it called? Does not have this is one of the things I also did one time, like some years back. So imagine the there is no darkness, or there's no dark. It's just you only have just light parts, the bright part. The image will be looking flat like an ordinary 2D. It will not be popping. So light and dark is very, very important. And mind you, when you're dealing with light and dark, don't make it too black, like too black. Light and dark in this context is not talking about the color of the material. It's talking about shadow cast. Shadow cast, where the light falls on and where the darkness actually falls on. There's always a trick to this. There's always a trick to this. Maintain contrast. And how do you maintain contrast? You maintain contrast, you achieve contrast with blue and orange colors. Blue and orange colors. That's what people don't know. People make compositions of colors, and before you know it, the color will lack contrast. Contrast is very, very important. So now, and how can you achieve contrast? You can achieve contrast with blue, then mixture of orange. With that, your what was it called? Your render, your images will pop with light. Contrast is very, very important. That's why I said something about lighting setup. Not all lighting setup in this concept is not talking about renders having light in it. Let me look for the one that that don't really have light. Okay, I think okay. I can still talk about this. Okay, now let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this now. There's actually no artificial light in this at all. Everything is just about natural light. But as you can see, there's a feel of contrast. You can feel the depth and the contrast in this image because we have the blue and the orange in play in the image. I'm not saying that okay, because you want to do render now, be using color blue and color orange. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. Let me see if I can have another image that okay. So this is actually an NFT contest I did with Lumion. I generated this image on Lumion. This is an NFT contest I did. So let me look for okay. This okay here. Like I was saying something about post-production the other time. This was the image without post-production. This was what came out from Lumion. This is what came out from Lumion. And this was the post-production part of it. Just the huge difference. You can still push this outside. What was it called on social medias, and people you still see a lot of likes and comments. And the same thing applies to this. And there will even be some people that will go for this better than the other ones. So that's just it. So we'll get to post production, and I will even tell you what you do to not shoot past, to not overdo post production, because people overdo post production actually. To not overdo post production. And like I was saying something about blue and orange gives contrast, it helps you in contrast. Always try to maintain that particular mix in images. So now color palette, that will take me to Google Chrome. Let me just move this thing up. Okay. Okay, so let me take this to Google Chrome. So now, talking about color palettes, understanding color palette, this will help you in the studio and also help you in interior. Take note of that, because everything I'm teaching you right now, if you can apply them to interior renders on Lumion, even on Lumion, you get good and cool, wonderful renders. So now, color palettes are combinations of workable two or more colors. Some colors, they can be defined by hues, values, and saturation. So let me show you one trick to using using a good color palette to work. This is it. Website adobe.color. Oh, okay, let me just start that. Let me just start that. Let's see what's gonna give us. Okay, now color.adobe.com. Okay. We're running out of time. The meeting will end in 10 minutes. Oh, we are actually, oh God. So color palette. So when you go to color.adobe.com, you'll notice it's a color palette website whereby you can actually pick the type of colors you want to use for a particular project. So now there are rules, several rules guiding colors, to take note of that. As you can see, apply color harmony rules. There are rules. We have analogous color, monochromatic, triad, complementary, split complementary, double split, and on and on and on and on. I normally advise people to stick with either one, monochromatic colors, and complementary colors too. If you're just starting, you don't really, let me close this please. You don't involve yourself in too much of these rules and grammars when you are just starting. But with time, when you understand much about it, you'll be able to play with every other rules. So talking about monochromatic, monochromatic is a shade of just one particular color. Shades of one particular color. So now, if I want to use a monochromatic color field for my renders, now maybe I want my walls and every other things to look just one color, but I don't want it to be too boring, but I want to use monochromatic colors. I will look for the particular color I intend using here. Then it's going to actually generate for me. Okay. Let me please a reset on that. Okay. Okay, and then I can adjust the brightness and every other thing here. It's just for you to understand. I'm trying to achieve a bridge wall. A bridge should be around somewhere. Okay. We are actually still on monochromatic colors. So and we have moments to go. Okay. Okay, I have beige here. I have beige color here. So now, as you can see, this is a beige color. This is a color code. You can use color codes on every other Lumion you have, aside for Lumion 8 and 10. You can use for 10.5. Yeah, you can use for 11 color code. You just copy the color code and you use. Or if you cannot use it on any of the version of the Lumion you have. There is a way you can go about it. I will teach you that when the class starts also. So now, this is a palette, A, B, C, D, E. So nobody is asking you, can you see the color? Nobody is asking you to come and use all the colors here. So now, the fact that you're using this color, and your color can have a very close, this is so close to this, and to give you a very, that is people that are having challenges or issues playing and blending colors together. Just come here, pick one color that you need. It will give you the one that will match it perfectly well. Let's check for the complementary color. So now, complementary color, these are the colors that complement this particular beige color. So now this particular color now can actually work with this, but we tend to see less exterior buildings are not that colorful, like they're not that shouting colors. So now you have to play it well here. This is just good, perfect. It's perfect for interior renders and the likes. So now you have to play with it very well, that you don't make your renders too shouty or something. We'll get to that when the class also starts. But before I leave this particular section, I will take us to where we have a lot of we have existing palette, because that's what I use most. I don't come here and do the settings because it wastes time if I achieve a lot of things. You know, these are existing palette that you can use. Can you see this? This is the image of it. You see the color codes for each of these color that you can use. Imagine you have a render that have just this monochromatic field, this monochromatic, just use of values and use of these are values of a single color. Can you see? Let's look for it depends on the type of color you want. This should be triad. This should be triad. Different colors you pick, you download. Then from that color, the color will be your guide to every render you're doing, to every work you're doing. You don't just work blindly and all the rest. So let's leave that because the time is on our side. We have less than 5 or 4 minutes there about high quality materials. Now I said something in the beginning of this class that There is a way you can work on Lumion without even touching the custom material, the follow material, the default materials. You can only touch the materials if there is a need for you feel like. So Lumion should not build boundaries or walls around you that you cannot use your own. There's a way you can source for your own material and use on Lumion, which we will do that in the class. I will take you through the process of using several materials that you want. Even when you see physical materials, you can take pictures of it and create your material. Choice of models, Lumion models are very, very risky. Like when you see them, you know that this one is from Lumion. It will be nice if you do renders and people find it difficult to identify your render as a Lumion render or something. They just look and they don't find it. So I'll teach you how to source for models from anywhere on the internet and get good models. And if you're a good VM software user or model users, you can also find a way to model for yourself and use it on Lumion, just like you're modeling your house. So any detail high-end models, this is not a Lumion model, this is not Lumion, this is not Lumion model, this light is not Lumion model, the fountain is not Lumion model. This was okay. The ball is definitely Lumion. This bicycle is Lumion, but this light is not Lumion model. This sit-out chair is not Lumion model. This model is not Lumion model. A lot like that. This pot is not Lumion model. This base is not Lumion model. All these materials, they are not from Lumion. They are not Lumion materials. All these materials are not Lumion materials. Okay. The car here is not Lumion model. On and on. This was before before post-production and after post-production. Okay. This is not Lumion model, and you can see a curtain behind it. Lumion does not have a curtain too. I'll teach you the tricks to that. I already said something about storytelling, post-production. Post-production should be the last class for the end of for the end of the session. That is when we are done with the whole thing. So before Zoom kick us off or kick us out, I would like you guys to feel free to drop your questions on the WhatsApp page. We can start talking now, and I will communicate some other things to us as we proceed before the class starts. So that is that about that for today, because I don't want Zoom to kick us out of the page. It's actually a free Zoom. It's not a paid Zoom. So thank you very much. There's a lot to learn, thank God. And I'm very sure some people or some persons already jot one or two things that you can ask questions. Thank you. God bless you. And have a wonderful night rest.